Chapter 61 Sunset Forest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next morning, Qiu gently peeled away Xiaolan's little legs that were wrapped around him. He looked down at her, a little exasperated, noticing the drool at the corner of her mouth and her rumpled clothes. He reached out and flicked her forehead. Ow! She cried, her delicate skin instantly turning red. Clutching her head, she looked at him with teary eyes. Brother, why'd you hit me? Don't you love me anymore? All right. Get up, sleepyhead. I told you I'm going to Sunset Forest today. He pinched her cheek lightly, wondering if he spoiled her too much with her nightly restlessness. Can't you just carry me, brother? You're too big for that now. Later, at the city gate, Xiaolan clutched a handful of candied hawthorns, tugging on his clothes as she followed close behind, heading in the direction of the Sunset Forest. Unseen, Sabu's men had already scurried back to report that their target had left the city. Back at the Earl of Sadio's residence, Sabu, snoring loudly with a maid in his arms, was jolted awake. Master, wake up. They've left the city. What's with all the yelling? I was dreaming about Lingling. He grumbled, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Master. Those two punks who embarrassed you in front of Miss Lingling the other day have left the city. They're headed towards Sunset Forest. The subordinate knelt and reported the news. Oh. Those untouchables left the city. Sabu sat up, plopping himself down right on the maid's chest, who silently gritted her teeth in discomfort. Tell Mo Dao to grab some guys and take care of them as soon as they enter Sunset Forest. Kill the guy, and, the girl. I haven't seen such a sweet little thing in a while. I'll have to sample her later. Ha! Yes, sir, the maid muttered from beneath him. Sabu chuckled. He pinched and twisted the maid a few times, letting out a lewd laugh. If he hadn't been afraid of causing a scene in the city and alerting Yi Lingling, that little chick would already be warming his bed. Don't worry, young master. We'll get it done. After the subordinate left, Sabu flopped back onto his bed, lost in his earlier dreams. Ugh. It's already so hot this morning. Smack. He slapped the maid. What are you waiting for? You expect me to serve you? The maid, as if seeking revenge for his earlier treatment, straddled him and began to torture him. She seemed a little scared and made a small noise, but after a few half-hearted attempts, there was no, movement. His initial arousal was gone. Meanwhile, outside Tiando City, Qiu and Xiaolan rode hard, rapidly approaching Sunset Forest. Brother, can't we let Xiao Wu out and ride her for a bit? We'll wait until those mice behind us catch up. Mice? Xiaolan leaned forward, peering back. There's nothing behind us. Qiu glanced back as well. They'll probably make their move once we're inside Sunset Forest. He didn't explain further, just cracked the whip, urging his horse toward the forest ahead. Sunset Forest was located in the center of the Heaven Do Empire and was the largest forest on the continent besides the Star Do Forest. The plant density wasn't as thick as Star Do, making it easier to move through. Additionally, the spirit beasts there were much weaker than those in Star Do. Most were only between 1 and 10,000 years old, and the variety wasn't as great. Soon after entering the forest, Qiu pulled back on the reins, and his horse slowed to a stop. Xiaolan had vanished. Behind him, the sound of approaching horses grew closer, then suddenly stopped. All right, folks. You've been following us for a while. Why don't you come on out? Qiu turned his horse to face the direction of the footsteps. Clop, clop, stirring up dust. Several riders appeared before him. Leading the group was the bodyguard, Mo Dao. He'd seen with Sabu in the city. He remembered that his marshal's soul was some kind of blade, and his soul ring configuration was yellow, and purple. Boy! You remember me? Mo Dao, riding a powerful steed, approached Qiu, his voice rough and menacing. Ha! Of course I remember the guard who couldn't get it up. What do you want with me? A hint of amusement flickered across Qiu's face. Although this was the first properly equipped soul sect he'd encountered, he didn't seem concerned. You think that just because Miss Lingling spoke up for you after you insulted my young master, everything's forgiven? What do you think? I think you're gonna die. And that girl with you? My young master wants her to warm his bed. Ha! Mo Dao cackled, and his men joined in. Come on, Mo Dao, why are you wasting time talking? Let's finish the job so the young master can give us a little something extra. Huh! Hearing their crude laughter, Yi Qiu frowned, and Sharingan appeared in his eyes. With blue hair, a fair complexion, and blood-red eyes, she looked unnervingly out of place, but her laughter was chilly. Hee hee. Hand over the girl, and I'll let you keep your head. Mo Dao materialized a large blade in his hand, pointing it at Yi Qiu. Yi Qiu didn't bother replying. A zhuge repeating crossbow suddenly appeared in each of his hands. Enough talk. Let's test these out on you, thwack, he fired a volley of arrows, trying his best to treat everyone equally, each scumbag receiving their just reward. The arrows flew, but strangely, Mo Dao and his men didn't dodge. Huh? What's going on? Mo Dao looked at Yi Qiu in surprise. As far as they could see, Yi Qiu had simply thrown a bunch of roses. Seeing the roses floating towards them, some of the men scoffed, looking at Yi Qiu with disdain. Is this guy an idiot? He's giving us roses. Ha! Ha! Yi Qiu's action caused a burst of laughter. Thwack, the sound of arrows piercing flesh echoed through the forest. The laughter abruptly stopped, and roses had already bloomed from their necks. Something's wrong. Everyone, scatter. Mo Dao, being the strongest, was the first to realize the danger. But his warning came too late. Thwack, several more impacts. Everything had happened in the blink of an eye. The others hadn't even had a chance to summon their martial souls before they died under the sharpness of the roses. Damn it! Mo Dao conjured his great sword and slashed at the incoming roses. Clang, the seemingly delicate rose collided with his blade, sending sparks flying. The true face of the rose was revealed as well. Dark arrows. Poison. Mo Dao looked at the dark liquid on the arrows that fell to the ground and looked from side to side, an ugly look on his face. The people he brought with him had died here before they could even move. Little devil. You. Mo Dao's expression turned grim. Hey. Not bad for a standard soul sect. You saw through my little illusion at the last moment. Yi Qiu held the zhuge repeating crossbows close to his mouth and blew on them lightly. Just now, when Yi Qiu activated his Sharingan, he had already cast an illusion on them. This style of fighting seemed pretty effective. I don't know why, but a little conflict and you guys want me dead. Boy. Enough talk. Your life is mine. Third soul skill. Earth Splitter. No longer listening to Yi Qiu's taunts, Mo Dao leapt from his horse and swung his great sword at him. Bang, dust billowed as the ground cracked, but he'd missed. He was on one knee, and there was cold sweat on his forehead. Yi Qiu was standing a few steps in front of him. How is this possible? You were standing right there. He looked up in horror. He clearly hit him. Hee hee. This is just a little trick with illusions. What you saw was just an illusion. Yi Qiu grinned triumphantly, raising a zhuge repeating crossbow in his hand. End of this chapter. Chapter 62 Investigation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looks like today's your lucky day to meet your maker. Yi Qiu said, his voice like ice. A volley of arrows shot forth. Don't count me out. Fourth soul skill, Saber Energy Shield. Ha! Mo Dao roared, a faint light flashing from his fourth purple soul ring. He didn't bother pulling the great sword from the ground. Instead, he straightened it, point down, pressing it into the earth. Thunk. As soon as the tip pierced the ground, soul power surged, erupting into a tempest of blade energy that exploded outwards. Ding. Ding. Sparks flew as several arrows were deflected. Heh. My turn. Mo Dao grinned, lifting his head. Crisis averted, now I've got the upper hand, but when his gaze met Yi Qiu's amused eyes, he froze. My bad, your invite got lost in the mail. Yi Qiu pointed at Mo Dao's neck, then shook his finger dismissively. Ugh. Mo Dao's neck locked up. Blood gurgled from his mouth as he stared in disbelief at the arrow lodged in his throat. Here. Cough. The great sword dissipated. Blood choked him, silencing any sound. Clawing at his neck did nothing to stem the flow. Simple misunderstanding. See, I fired 2 volleys. You only saw 1. Yi Qiu twitched his finger, using an illusion to mask the flick of a switch. Child's play. Thud, Mo Dao crumpled, eyes wide, his dying thoughts were haunted by a pair of blood-red eyes, each pupil marked with 3 tomo. Scanning the battlefield, Yi Qiu mused that illusion might just be his new favorite trick, those who don't know him would fall for it every time. Bathed in the blue-silver emperor's bloodline, his mental strength had soared, more than enough to befuddle these low-rent soul sections. If he busted out a Tsukuyomi, even freshly minted soul kings would be flat on their backs. Green light enveloped Yi Qiu, coalescing into a human form. He inhaled a sweet, natural fragrance. Xiaolan materialized in his arms. Big brother. Are you okay? Not hurt, are you? Freshly summoned, she patted him down, searching for injuries. All right. You're getting handsy. Yi Qiu pried her hands away. Just worried about you. She pouted. Ever since her breakthrough, her brother hardly ever cuddled her. She almost wished she hadn't gotten stronger. Ignoring Xiaolan's grumbling, Yi Qiu scooped her up and hopped off the horse, freeing the jade-eyed cloud-winged tiger he hadn't seen in ages. Huzi was overjoyed to see Yi Qiu, bounding over with puppy-dog eyes, trying to lick his face. Luckily, Xiaolan blocked the assault. Brother. Why did you have to get a tigress back then? She wrestled the tiger's head, giving it a withering look, then whined to Yi Qiu, resentment lacing her voice. Like I had a choice at the time. It was transportation, plain and simple. Yi Qiu rolled his eyes, unamused. After calming the tiger, he boosted Xiaolan onto its back. Okay. Let's bounce before the blood smell attracts every soul beast in the forest. Snuggling against Yi Qiu, Xiaolan's mood instantly improved. After Huzi had galloped a ways, she yanked the tiger's ears, bringing it to a screeching halt. Roar! The cloud-winged tiger whimpered. Xiaolan. What's wrong? Yi Qiu asked, puzzled. Brother, where are we headed? Can we even get there going like this? Even though the tiger was still, Xiaolan didn't release her grip on its ears. Xiaolan's words stopped Yi Qiu in his tracks. Right. Which way was the ice and fire yin-yang well? He drew a blank, blanking completely. Yi Qiu only knew it was somewhere in Sunset Forest. He looked around, forest stretched out in every direction. Where should he even begin? Yi Qiu's brows furrowed. Sigh, taking a breath, Yi Qiu activated his Sharingan, the 3 tomo spinning within his pupils, swirling with purple mist. Even with his boosted mental strength, the effective range wasn't great. 2,000 meters was about the limit. His vision sliced through the trees, stretching into the distance. He spotted teams of people hunting souls and others fleeing for their lives, pursued by savage beasts. But no sign of the ice and fire yin-yang well. As Yi Qiu scanned the area, Xiaolan gazed at him intently. Big brother, Yi Qiu's eyes, they're so pretty. She edged closer, her expression growing dreamy. Yi Qiu, deep in concentration, didn't notice Xiaolan's approach. His head swiveled, taking in the struggle between people and the carnage of soul beasts. Still no ice and fire yin-yang well. Yi Qiu felt a flush of embarrassment. His eyes could see for miles, but some of the things he saw were inappropriate for children, and completely unintended. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath ragged. Pushing the Sharingan to its max was taking a toll. His mental stamina was flagging. Huh. Yi Qiu felt a chill on his cheek. Somehow, Xiaolan had turned around, wrapping her arms around his waist, clinging to him again. Drool glistened at the corner of her mouth. Xiaolan. Yi Qiu snapped, annoyed. His face burned but his shout got no response. Instead, she aimed for Yi Qiu's mouth again, slapping his forehead. Yi Qiu realized it was his eyes again, shaking his head, resigned, he gave in and rewarded Xiaolan again. Ah, the affection in her eyes morphed into tears that squeezed out as she blinked. Ouch, that hurt. She covered her forehead, glaring up at him. Brother. Why did you hit Xiaolan? Look what you did. Yi Qiu looked down at her, pointing to his cheek. You didn't just kiss me, you slimed me. Xiaolan didn't do it on purpose. She mumbled, hanging her head. Okay, let's get off the tiger first. Yi Qiu ruffled her hair, wiping the tears from her eyes. Just, don't look me in the eyes next time. Why? They're so pretty. Legs down first. Yi Qiu said, his voice a little louder. He was worried he'd blush. Okay brother, don't be mad. Once she'd slid off, Yi Qiu took a step back, still feeling hot. Xiaolan gently straightened his rumpled robes, and with that, the little scene was over. Even though Yi Qiu's search had failed, he planned to rest a bit. Chapter 63 Search Failed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Driving Huzi, he headed into the forest. The deeper he went, the stronger the soul beasts became, forcing Yi Qiu to stay vigilant. In the days that followed, the emerald-eyed cloud-winged tiger led Yi Qiu onward, stopping for rest in the Shenwei space when tired and hunting for food when hungry. Even with Yi Qiu's clairvoyance, he couldn't avoid every soul beast attack. Luckily, he made it through unscathed. The sunset forest was vast, even Yi Qiu's Sharingan couldn't fully survey it. 7 days flew by. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Yi Qiu was still searching. Bro, still no luck. Xiaolan's getting sleepy again. Oops, sorry. Go back and rest if you're tired. I'll look for a bit longer. Nope. I wanna stay with you. Before she finished, Yi Qiu pulled her back into his body. He glanced at the sky. If he couldn't find it soon, he'd have to try something else. Another 2 months passed in a flash. Searching every day for the ice and fire yin-yang well was starting to get to Yi Qiu. He'd been stuck in the sunset forest for too long, and his soul power cultivation had stalled. He even wondered if Douluo's poison formation could somehow block his vision. At that moment, Yi Qiu used the flying ability of his 10,000-year-old blue-silver emperor right leg bone to scan the forest below. The ice and fire yin-yang well was massive and surrounded by mist. He couldn't believe he hadn't spotted it, even flying this high. Yi Qiu was cloaked in black, the hood obscuring his blue hair. Flying so high was risky. He wouldn't have done it if he had any other option. People would definitely see him, and Yi Qiu couldn't risk revealing his identity. 3 days, Yi Qiu decided to search for 3 more days. If he still came up empty, he'd move on to plan B. Many flying spirit beasts attacked Yi Qiu mid-air, but they were no match for him. If they managed to hit him, he'd be shocked. Below, Xiaolan sat by a fire, with the emerald-eyed cloud-winged tiger lying at her feet. Its tail was twisted into a bow. The little blue spirit was talking to it. Tiger, you can't act like a baby around my brother. Or else, next time I'll lick your tail. Her soft voice was juxtaposed against harsh words that clearly terrified the tiger. She even grabbed a handful of its fur as she spoke. Roar! Tears welled up in the tiger's eyes as it whimpered. It had suffered enough with this little girl, it couldn't even complain. Far above, Yi Qiu finished his search and slowly descended toward Xiaolan. She hastily untied the tiger's tail, shook a small fist at it, grabbed the meat from the fire, and started to roast it. Thump, Yi Qiu landed. The tiger was about to bolt over but was scared off by Xiaolan's glare. Bro! How'd it go? Find anything? She rushed over, grabbed Yi Qiu's arm, and pulled him to the fire. Ugh! Sighing, Yi Qiu shook his head. Still nothing. It's okay. Xiaolan's always here for you. She stood dutifully behind him, squeezing his shoulders and patting his back. Yi Qiu wondered when she becomes so caring, guessing she sensed his exhaustion. Speaking of which, what's up with the emerald-eyed cloud-winged tiger? The mark on its head seems faded, Yi Qiu noticed, concerned. Huh? I dunno. Xiaolan panicked. She hurried over and picked up the roast meat. Bro, look at the barbecue I made for you. He was surprised by the golden brown meat. It looked delicious. Didn't know you could make barbecue. He took it, sniffed it, and took a small bite. Xiaolan wants to help. Her expectant expression slowly morphed into a frozen one. Wiping the blood from his mouth, Yi Qiu grimaced and shoved the roast meat into the emerald-eyed cloud-winged tiger's mouth. Hey! Tiger! No eating that! Xiaolan stomped her foot, ready to wrestle the food away. Luckily, Yi Qiu stopped her. After taking another bite, his voice sounded strained. It's alright, Xiaolan. It tastes great, but don't worry about it next time. I'll grill it myself. Humph. I'll do better next time. Heh. Yi Qiu gave a wry smile as he lay down on the ground. Bro, what's wrong? Xiaolan knelt and touched his forehead. Nothing, just a little tired. He rubbed his temples. These past 2 months were taking a toll. Bro. Am I useless? Xiaolan took advantage of the moment and lay on top of him, filling the air with a fragrant aroma, the second soul skill, blue-silver fragrance. Yi Qiu inhaled deeply, and his weariness lessened. Of course not. Aren't you helping me right now? Then, you won't get rid of Xiaolan, will you? That she stared intently into Yi Qiu's eyes, no longer her usual cute self. Why would I do that? Yi Qiu looked at her, confused. Why would you even think that? In your heart, is Xiao Wu or Xiaolan more important? Huh? Yi Qiu stared at Xiaolan, tears welling in her eyes. Where was this coming from? At night, you always call out Xiao Wu in your sleep, but I've never heard you say Xiaolan. Her mouth trembled, on the verge of tears. Yi Qiu suddenly understood Xiaolan's recent behavior. She was afraid he'd abandon her. Why would I do that? We're bonded. Even if you wanted to leave, I couldn't bear it. He held her close, patted her back, and rested his chin on the top of her head. Beyond feelings, Xiaolan was now his second martial soul. He'd never let her go. Then, you don't say my name when you sleep? Seriously? You're right beside me. I'm with you every day. It took a while to console her. He had to sacrifice a little to let Xiaolan bite him. Habit was a powerful thing. After so long, Yi Qiu had become immune to Xiaolan's touches. Xiaolan, I'm going to search for a few more days. If we still can't find it, I'll take you to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Okay. Big brother. Moi. Ahem. Speaking of which, have you been saying other people's names in your sleep? Yup. There's also Sister Zhu Zhuqing who watered Xiaolan before. Xiaolan squinted at Yi Qiu with a sly smile. You're such a player, bro. I. Yi Qiu stuttered, unable to respond. He told Xiaolan to stay put, be safe, and flew back into the air. Chapter 64 The Last Day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 64, The Last Day. 2 days later, Yi Qiu, still empty-handed, took Xiaolan and Huzi to a cave to rest. Meanwhile, at the edge of Sunset Forest, a group of flashy teenagers showed up. Leading the pack were 2 guys and a girl, followed by about 6 or 7 others in matching star-studded uniforms with tiny, colorful pagodas embroidered on the chest. Rong, maybe we should head back. Honestly, there's nothing to do here. The boy speaking had a serious face. He wore a white robe with a small sword tattoo on his cuff and looked to be around 14 or 15. His name was Qinfeng, a descendant of the swordsman Luo Qinxin. His martial spirit was a Qinfeng sword, and he was a three-ring battle soul master. He glanced at the girl beside him, his worry plain on his face. Yeah, Rong, seriously. Let's go back. If the headmaster finds out, we'll be in serious trouble. The other boy, Luo, stood on the other side of the girl, dressed in black. He was just as handsome and about the same age as Feng. He was from the Bone Douluo clan, and his spirit was a bone dragon, although it lacked the space attribute. His cultivation level was about the same as Feng's. Sandwiched between them was Ning Rongrong, the little witch who was close with Yi Qiu. She wore a blue pleated skirt, her cute, youthful face relaxed and happy. She was constantly checking out the scenery as if they were on a casual outing in the sunset forest. What's the big deal? I'm not here to goof off. I'm here to help fourth brother get a soul ring. Ning Rongrong said, hands on her hips, scoffing at Feng and Luo. I'm just getting 100-year soul beast. What's the danger? Or are you two just talk? Always bragging about how tough you are, and now you're chickening out before we even go in. Ha! She curled her lip at them, her language surprisingly blunt. How could we? I'd never lie to you, Rong. I could take on 3 of Luo. A measly 100-year soul beast is nothing. Feng. You're full of it. Even you couldn't break through my defense. Ning Rongrong's taunts worked, sparking the two teenagers' competitive spirit while she watched them bicker with amusement. Rong, can you watch your mouth? You're a girl. A young man in the middle of the group sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. This was Ning Rongrong's fourth brother, Ning Tian. Ning Fengji had several sons, but only one daughter, and she was the most talented, raised to be his heir. Naturally, Ning Rongrong was spoiled rotten by the 7-treasure glazed tile school. Okay, fourth brother. You're lecturing me like dad. Ning Rongrong waved her hand impatiently. She'd finally gotten out to relax and didn't want to hear any lectures. Ning Tian just gaped, helpless against his headstrong sister. He'd recently hit level 20 and wanted to ask the sect elders to hunt his soul beast for him. But this little witch found out and took over, promising to arrange everything. This was her idea of an arrangement. She'd promised to have elders meet them outside but ended up tricking them all out of the sect. Rong, I still think we should go back. Fourth brother's soul ring isn't that urgent. We can still turn around now. Ning Tian knew how much his father doted on his little sister. If anything happened to her, he'd be as good as dead. Come on. It's just 100-year soul beast, and we're not even going deep in. With Feng and Luo protecting me, I'll be fine. Ning Rongrong stomped her foot, annoyed. Don't worry, if Dad asks, I'll take the blame. Heh. Hurry up and follow me. She yelled at Ning Tian and the others, hands on her hips, then marched into the forest. Rong. ×2. Feng and Luo reached out, then glared at each other and turned away, hurrying after her. Rong. As a support soul master, you should stay in the middle of the group. Ning Tian shouted after her, utterly exasperated. With a grimace, he led the others after her, praying he wouldn't be beaten to a pulp by his father when they got back. In a hidden cave, Yi Qiu sat cross-legged, meditating to recover his mental energy. Xiaolan lay on the ground, her head resting on Yi Qiu's thigh, quiet, graceful, and cute. It would have been perfect if she wasn't drooling. Yi Qiu slowly opened his eyes, finishing his meditation. He looked at Xiaolan asleep on his lap, smiling, and reached out to wipe the drool from the corner of her mouth. Feeling the touch, Xiaolan slowly opened her hazy eyes. Brother, her voice was soft and muffled. Since you're awake, get up. He patted her head gently. Okay, brother. Now awake, her voice was clear and sweet again. She smiled and went to wrap her arms around Yi Qiu's neck. Hey! Wipe your mouth first. He put his palm on her chin to stop her, looking disgusted. Ah! She reached up to touch the corner of her mouth and found it was wet. Xiaolan wants brother to wipe it for her. Fine, Yi Qiu replied instantly, she sat on Yi Qiu's lap, her blue eyes glinting mischievously as she heard his agreement. She looked up, waiting for him. As soon as Yi Qiu reached out, Xiaolan reacted quickly, wrapping her arms around his neck and pulling him down. At the same time, she leaned forward, their lips met. Feeling the moisture on his lips, Yi Qiu stared. Xiaolan. Why are you acting up again? Fortunately, there have been countless sneak attacks like this over the past 2 months. Yi Qiu was immune to Xiaolan's childish games. Humph. Who told you to look down on me? Xiaolan jumped back, covering her forehead to avoid getting knocked out again. She casually wiped the saliva on her sleeve, then sniffed it, muttering, "It smells good." Seeing Xiaolan's smug expression, Yi Qiu didn't say anything. If he couldn't change it, he'd just have to get used to it. He silently wiped his lips and stood up. He called Huzi from the cave entrance and brought him into the Shenwei space. "Brother, are we leaving?" She ran over and took Yi Qiu's hand. "Yeah. Today's the last day. We'll go straight back to Tiando City through the Shenwei space tonight." Yi Qiu nodded. Searching here was a waste of time. He crouched down and pinched her cheek, soft and tender. Xiaolan just cooperated, staring at Yi Qiu with a smile. "Today, just stay in my body. It'll save me from having to come get you." "Okay. I'll listen to brother." With her face pinched, her words were a little muffled, and she started to glow faintly. "Ha!" Looking at his cute little sister, Yi Qiu couldn't help laughing and pulled her into a tight hug. As soon as she leaned against him, she turned into a beam of light, merged into Yi Qiu's body, and took root in his heart. Yi Qiu stood up and stretched, activating his right leg's soul bone, slowly rising into the air and flying out of the cave. End of this chapter. Chapter 65. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Over the sunset forest, a small black dot slowly ascended. This time, Yi Qiu didn't worry about his soul power, and flew very high, getting a bird's-eye view of most of the forest. Still no sign of the ice-fire Yin well. Sigh. The wind swallowed his sigh. His soul power was already drained, so Yi Qiu had to descend a bit. Looking at the terrain below, he had a few guesses. Maybe the reason he couldn't find the ice-fire Yin well wasn't because it was hidden by a formation, but because something else had changed. Let's keep looking. If it doesn't work, I'll have to ask Sect Master Ning to get me into the school. Yi Qiu's large black robe flapped in the wind. While scanning below, he was thinking about how to get Ning Fengji to help. Yi Qiu's plan B was a roundabout. Basically, he'd go for the low-hanging fruit first, get into the Heaven Do Royal Academy, get close to Du Guyan, help her with her poison, get on her good side, and then connect with old poison through her. Going straight to his door would be a bad idea. Thinking about that poison Douluo with his weird personality, since he helped Du Guyan and could cure her, they should be able to talk. The problem now was that the Heaven Do Imperial Academy only accepted nobles, and he needed the 7 treasure glazed tile school to help him with that. Should he use the blueprints for the silent hidden arrow or Zhuge repeating crossbow? Yi Qiu quickly dismissed the idea. He wasn't going to use Tang San stuff to trick the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Who's unlucky enough to be Monster Chow again? Seeing a pack of spirit beasts chasing prey below, Yi Qiu was unmoved. He'd seen it all before. Just as he was about to look away, he noticed a flash of color. That color? His calm expression shifted with surprise. The people fleeing below were faintly glowing with different colored lights. Could it be some unlucky kids from the 7 treasure glazed tile school? Yi Qiu hesitated, then flew down. Maybe this was his chance to get an admission notice. In the sunset forest, a pack of gale demon wolves roamed and hunted. The weakest among them were 1,000-year soul beasts, and the leader, the Wolf King, had been cultivating for 2,000 years. Even though the terrain was rough, they were fast, and they were gaining on the group ahead. In a panic, a young man tripped over a rock and was instantly swarmed by the pack. His screams didn't last long. Zhang San, the teenager in front turned, seeing the bloody scene, and his legs went weak. The girl in the blue pleated skirt was even worse. She'd lost her earlier perkiness. Her fair face was covered in mud, but it couldn't hide her paleness and fear, and there were tears in her eyes. Rong Rong. Don't just stand there. Run. Ning Tian grabbed his sister's hand. In the other, a small 7-story pagoda appeared, with a second soul ring pulsating. 7 treasures, skill 1, speed, .2 beams of light shot from the pagoda, hitting their legs, and their speed increased significantly. These people were none other than Ning Rongrong and her friends, hunting for soul rings. Ning Tian had gotten his second soul ring from a 700-year-old Gale demon wolf. Beside him, Chen Feng looked grim. I don't think we're getting out of this one. Damn. If Gu Luo's in trouble, cover my butt later. That he called out to Gu Luo, who nodded seriously. They could die, even Ning Tian. But Ning Rongrong couldn't be touched. Who knew killing a 700-year-old soul beast would cause such a ruckus? Why did the Wolf King's cub have to come out today? Ignoring the others, Chen Feng and Gu Luo stayed close to Ning Tian and his sister. Rong Rong. Rong Rong. Ning Tian's voice snapped Ning Rongrong out of her daze. She was crying. Fourth brother. What are we going to do? Am I going to die? Rongrong, don't worry. Crush the jade pendant Grandpa Gu gave you. He'll be here soon. Right, the jade pendant Grandpa Bone gave me. Wiping her tears, she took out the jade pendant from her soul tool, but a piercing howl made her tremble. A wood at the Gale Demon Wolf King's bloodthirsty roar was the signal to attack. Puff. Puff. The fur on the streamlined bodies of dozens of Gale Demon Wolves rippled as they sped up and surrounded the group, running in circles. The Wolf King stood on a large rock outside the circle, his eyes glowing red, holding a chunk of mangled corpse in his mouth. Gulp. Is that Tang San? Someone swallowed, feeling a chill run down their spine. Boom. The Wolf King threw the corpse down, and blood splattered on the crowd, the strong smell making the atmosphere even more bleak. Ah! Fourth brother. Ning Rongrong cried, looking at the body in front of her, limbs missing, unrecognizable, and covered in blood. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Ning Tian was also nervous, grabbing the jade pendant from Ning Rongrong's hand and smashing it on the ground. It was like a signal. A Wu. The Wolf King had lost his patience. He wanted to tear these humans apart and avenge his child. Receiving the order, the wolves charged towards Ning Rongrong and her group. Their cultivation levels were low, and they'd never seen anything like this. They were no match and were instantly scattered. Howling, screaming, biting, and weeping filled the air. Gu Luo. Protect Miss Rongrong. Got it. This time Gu Luo and Chen Feng weren't arguing. In Chen Feng's hand, a 3-foot green blade appeared. 3 yellow and purple soul rings spun around him. Gu Luo's body was covered in a bone armor, showing his martial soul. Gu Luo said to Ning Tian, Master Ning Tian, forgive us. Ning Tian understood, and 4 beams of light shot from the 7-treasure glazed pagoda in his hand, sinking into Chen Feng and the others. 7 treasures, skill 1, soul power, skill 2, speed. Behind him, a sob. 7 treasures, skill 1, strength, skill 2, speed. It was Ning Rongrong. She looked around helplessly. It was the last thing she could do. First soul skill, sharp blade drawn. Third soul skill, sweeping thousands of troops. Chen Feng held his sword horizontally, a blue light flowing along the incredibly sharp blade, and slashed at the Gale Demon Wolves rushing towards Ning Tian and his sister. A Wu. After the howl, the leading wolf's paw fell off, separating from its body, warm blood spraying onto Chen Feng's resolute face, staining the ground red. Gu Luo was also going all out, his purple soul ring shining brightly. Third soul skill, white bone spikes. White bone spikes erupted from the ground under the attacking giant wolf, impaling it. Still, they couldn't handle all these soul beasts by themselves. The exclamations behind them made them turn their heads. Fourth brother. Rong Rong. Watch out. The Wolf King spat a wind blade at Ning Tian. a giant wolf approached Ning Rongrong, mouth wide open, blowing her hair. In the sky, a black dot was getting bigger, falling fast. End of this chapter. Chapter 66. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To conserve his soul power, Qiu went into freefall, only spotting them clearly after dropping a significant distance. No way, she's actually from the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. What's Ning Rongrong doing in a place like this? This is bad. Xiao Lan. The wind nearly swallowed his words, but she heard him loud and clear. Coming, big brother, a crisp voice echoed in Qiu's ears, warming his heart. A blue-gold light condensed, morphing into a pendant-like figure and attaching itself to him. Without a word, their minds connected, and Qiu tossed Xiao Lan downward. Miss Rongrong. Gu Luo and Chen Feng's eyes widened as they saw the situation behind them. Boom. Chen Feng didn't even have time to react before a giant wolf sent him flying. Gu Luo was too late to intercept. Everything seemed to slow down. The wind blade spat out by the Wolf King sliced through the air, leaving a white trail, aiming to decapitate Ning Tian. Fear etched across Ning Tian's face. Suddenly, an invisible vortex materialized before him, and the wind blade vanished without a trace. Ning Rongrong squeezed her eyes shut, the Gale Demon Wolf's fangs mere inches from her skin. Whoosh. 2 streaks of light, one black, one blue, shot across the sky. Boom. Boom. 2 deafening explosions rocked the area, both inside and outside their circle. Dust billowed, scattering the wolf pack. Ah! The Gale Demon Wolf whimpered in terror from within the smoke. Ah! Chen Feng clutched his chest, his gaze fixed on Ning Rongrong with worry. Hot blood splattered onto Ning Rongrong's face, causing her to scream in panic. As the dust settled, a boy in a black robe stood atop a Gale Demon Wolf whose head had been crushed. It was Qiu, who had plummeted from the sky. Blood coated Ning Rongrong's face and body, robbing her of her usual pristine appearance. She stood there, shell-shocked, staring blankly ahead. Miss Ning. Long time no see. He waved a hand in front of her face, but she didn't react, her body trembling, tears streaming down her face. She was clearly traumatized. She swayed, on the verge of collapse, but Qiu caught her just in time. Ning Tian, meanwhile, kept patting himself, as if unable to believe he was still alive. I'm okay. I'm not dead. Excellent. Young Master Ning Tian and Miss Rongrong are safe. Gu Luo breathed a sigh of relief. Though he didn't recognize their rescuer, the fact that he knew Miss Rongrong meant he probably wasn't an enemy. Gu Luo moved to help them. Ah! The Wolf King roared again, and the pack regrouped, surging forward to attack Qiu and the survivors. Watch out! Chen Feng, gripping his sword tightly, warned Qiu. Little Blue. You got it, big brother. At Qiu's command, several strands of blue-gold-blue-silver grass snaked in from outside the encirclement. Wrapping around everyone's waists. Don't resist. Hearing Qiu's voice, Chen Feng held back his sword. Chen Feng stared, stunned, at the blue-silver grass binding him. The wounds are healing fast. Whoosh. As the group was pulled from the fray, life force pulsed from the blue-silver grass into their bodies. Laugh. Ning Tian, who had been targeted by the Gale Demon Wolf King, was nearly torn apart when the Wolf King yanked his blue-silver grass. Luckily, Qiu was close enough to grab him by the collar and hurl him away. Ah! He shouted as he flew through the air. Fortunately, Gu Luo caught him, preventing a disfiguring fall. Seeing that Ning Rongrong hadn't recovered, Qiu put an arm around her waist to keep her from falling. Hold on tight. Ning Rongrong remained unresponsive. Hold on. Qiu raised his voice, and this time, she numbly wrapped her arms around him. As soon as she was close, Ning Rongrong detected a pleasant fragrance that masked the smell of blood. A spark of awareness flickered in her eyes, her complexion improving. She unconsciously snuggled closer to Qiu's chest. a sense of safety washing over her. Qiu had subtly activated the Blue-Silver Emperor's second soul ability, Blue-Silver Fragrance, swish, the moment Qiu moved, a Gale Demon Wolf pounced on the spot he had just occupied. Once Xiaolan had pulled everyone clear, she joined the retreat. With so many wolves, Qiu couldn't protect everyone. And the Shenwei space? Not something to reveal to just anyone. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. The entire rescue and escape took only a few seconds. The wolves, reacting swiftly, continued to attack. The Wolf King, unable to restrain himself, broke formation and gave chase. During the flight, Qiu pushed Ning Rongrong toward Ning Tian, grabbed Xiaolan's hand, and sprinted ahead. Now, besides Ning Tian and the other members of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School, only 3 others remained in their group. Don't worry, everyone. Elder Gu will be here to rescue us soon. Ning Tian encouraged the group as they ran. Ah! A cry of pain pierced the air from Ning Tian's side. Ning Rongrong, still dazed, tripped over a rock. Sister! Ning Tian turned to help her, but Qiu stopped him. Keep going, I'll get her. Qiu urged them to continue onward. If things got too hairy with only Ning Rongrong, he could always hide in the Shenwei space. Big brother. Be careful. Don't worry. Qiu winked at Xiaolan. If he couldn't win, he could always run. He turned, facing the wolves, determined to retrieve Ning Rongrong. Chenfeng. Should we? Luo asked Chenfeng. They couldn't just leave Ning Rongrong behind. We're going with you. The 2 paused and followed Qiu. Qiu glanced at them, frowned, but didn't comment. He activated Shadow Step, moving swiftly. Third soul skill, sweeping away thousands of troops. Second soul skill, Bone Dragon Intimidation. The draconic aura emanating from Luo's second soul skill momentarily stunned the Wolf King, who had been barreling toward Ning Rongrong. Chen Feng's sword slashed, leaving a bloody gash on the Wolf King's cheek. Xianyu hand. Qiu struck, boom, a giant wolf was sent flying. With a swift motion, he caught Ning Rongrong. Miss Ning, you're really... Qiu trailed off, unsure what to say about her performance. I'm sorry, woohoo. Ning Rongrong's dirty face was streaked with blood and tears, and her feet were throbbing. Dad, Grandpa Bone, Grandpa Jian, hurry, Qiu and the others tried to escape, but it was too late. The wolves had surrounded them. The aged Wolf King, eyes fixed on Qiu, had taken the field himself, and his new wound only fueled his rage. He charged Qiu with blinding speed. Qiu inhaled deeply. The 3-pronged jade in his eyes spiraled into his pupils before reforming into a 6-pointed star. Stay safe. Qiu warned Luo and Chenfeng. With those words, his bloodshot right eye locked onto the Wolf King. Blood trickled from the corner of his eye. Boom, a burst of black flames erupted. Amaterasu missed its mark, for the first time. The Wolf King had dodged Amaterasu with an animal's instinct. Ow! Despite the miss, Qiu didn't relent, keeping his gaze fixed on the creature. The Wolf King circled frantically, while Qiu inadvertently cleared a path through the pack. Painful whimpers echoed as the black flames engulfed many of the giant wolves. They writhed in agony, but Amaterasu wouldn't extinguish until it consumed its target. Death was their only escape. Chapter 67. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hoochie. Qiu gasped, his right eye blurring. He squeezed it shut, face contorted in pain. Blood streamed down his cheek, dripped from his chin onto Ning Rongrong's hand. Are you okay? Ning Rongrong looked at him, worried and a little scared by his ferocious expression. The Gale Demon Wolf King's mournful howl echoed through the area. The bones of several giant wolves were scattered. A purple soul ring hovered in the air where they'd been. Gulp. ×2. What a terrifying soul skill. Chenfeng and Luo stared, shocked, at the shimmering soul rings. Who would have guessed this kid, barely older than them, could pull off something like that. Whoosh, while they were stunned, the Wolf King became a white blur, slicing through the air. In a split second, Chen Feng and Gu Luo snapped back to reality. Yi Qiu didn't have time to react. Crap. Gu Luo, let's do this together. Chen Feng braced himself, channeling every ounce of his soul power into the 3-foot Qin Feng sword. The blade gleamed sharply. First and second soul skills, sharp blade unleashed. Sword's heavy descent. 7 kill sword art, he spun the sword wildly, attacking head-on, bursts of sword energy erupting from the blade. Gu Luo didn't hesitate, he stepped in front of Yi Qiu. First and third soul skills, bone dragon armor. White bone rampart, a dark white bone armor erupted from his body. Thick white bones formed a cage around himself and Yi Qiu, bracing for the Gale Demon Wolf King. In Yi Qiu's arms, Ning Rongrong gritted her teeth. 7 treasures, 1 for strength. The other for speed. 2 lights of different colors washed over Chen Feng, the cyan sword energy surged like a tidal wave. Ready to drown the Gale Demon Wolf King. But they were facing a 10,000-year soul beast and its pack, like a pack of wolves working together, they know how to cooperate and unite. Roar! The Wolf King roared, and the pack answered. Damn! Chen Feng's eyes widened. He tried to redirect his sword, but it was too late. A giant wolf threw itself in front of the Gale Demon Wolf King. Bloody and exhausted, it charged towards Chen Feng, boom, the wolf slammed into his chest. Chen Feng coughed up blood and flew backward, the giant wolf stumbled twice, then collapsed. Gu Luo's face was grim. Should have known better than to bring these two. Glancing at Chen Feng, whose chest was sunken, Yi Qiu desperately tapped into the Lan Huang's right leg bone, trying to heal. He'd burned through his soul power during their long flight. Yi Qiu knew Gu Luo wouldn't be able to hold out. The Wolf King was too fast. Miss Ning, give me a boost. Got it. 7 treasures. Whoosh, the Wolf King closed the distance in the blink of an eye, slamming into the bone defense line. 1 day power, boom, Gu Luo's third soul skill crumbled instantly. The second is speed, boom, the bone armor on Gu Luo's chest shattered, scattering pieces and blood over Yi Qiu's head. The Gale Demon Wolf King was on top of Yi Qiu. Ning Rongrong squeezed her eyes shut. Just where I want you. Yi Qiu roared. The 6-pointed star in his eyes dripped blood, boom, ah. After the explosion, a huge white figure flew backward, slamming into the ground. The Gale Demon Wolf King was bleeding, rolling on the ground. One eye had been destroyed, the broken eyeball hanging by a thread. Drink chi. The dust settled, and Yi Qiu knelt, the pain in his eyes and body unbearable, summoning Susanoo. Even in its early stage, to fight a 10,000-year Gale Demon Wolf King was too much. Ning Rongrong stared in shock at the bloody, armor-like thing surrounding herself and Yi Qiu. Like a human rib cage, with a thick arm skeleton on the right, extending from his back and shielding Yi Qiu. Gulp. Yi Qiu, what is that? Miss Ning. Not the time. It's coming again. Ow! The Wolf King howled. The pack charged, and a brutal attack commenced. Yi Qiu struggled to keep Susanoo up, wondering if he should abandon Chen Feng and Gu Luo, and just retreat to the Shenwei dimension. Suddenly, 2 majestic auras descended, crushing them. Beasts! You dare! Cold, hoarse, a majestic voice that shook the soul. The wolves stopped their attack as if frozen with terror. They retreated, whimpering, in the direction they came from. It's Dad, Grandpa Jian, and Grandpa Bone, Ning Rongrong cried, tears streaming down her face. Finally, Yi Qiu thought. Yi Qiu relaxed, the bloody Susanoo disappeared, and he looked up. A dark rift in the sky slowly closed. 3 figures stood in the air. 2 of them shared a sword. He'd seen them at the Tiando auction. Ning Fengji, gentle as jade, radiated warmth, with sharp eyes and silver hair. The sword Douluo, Luo Qinshin, stood tall and straight as a sword. The third figure was dressed in black, white strands of hair framed a haggard face. He was tall, but not just physically. His imposing presence came from his broad frame. It had to be Bon Douluo Gu Rong, the white jade pillar of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School, known for his defense. To save Ning Rongrong, the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect deployed their entire powerhouse roster. They even broke protocol. Normally a titled Douluo would stay in charge of the sect. Think you can run? Jian Douluo made a sword gesture with his fingers and brought them down on the fleeing wolves. By Yubiubiu star. A rain of sword energy shredded the pack, turning them into pincushions. In the hands of a titled Douluo, the wolves were nothing more than ants. 3 streams of light fell from the sky, healing Qiu, Chen Feng, and Gu Luo. The 3 figures descended. Ning Fengji leaned on his cane, holding the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. He glanced at the floating soul rings, then he glared at Ning Rongrong. Father! Grandpa Jian, Grandpa Bon! You're finally here. This time, he really scared the pampered little princess. She left Qiu and threw herself into Ning Fengji's arms. Humph! You really messed up this time. Ning Fengji snapped. Fengji! What are you saying? Gu Rong glared at Ning Fengji. He knelt, taking Ning Rongrong's hand. Rongrong, let Grandpa Gu see if you're hurt. Jian Douluo looked at Qiu with curiosity. Uncle Bon, you'll spoil her rotten. How am I supposed to explain this to her family? Bon Douluo retorted, turning to Ning Rongrong. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Ning Rongrong sobbed. Sword Douluo felt a pang of sympathy. Okay. Let's talk about this back home. Brother. Xiaolan's anxious voice came from a distance. Ning Fengji and the others looked over. Ning Tian and the other disciples followed Xiaolan, running towards them. It's the sect master and the elders. We're saved. The remaining disciples collapsed, relieved. Father. Ning Tian lowered his head. Humph. We'll settle this back at the sect. Chapter 68 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 68, The 7 Treasures Glazed Tile School. Ning Tian hung his head, clearly miserable. Alright, stop moping. What are you waiting for? Go help the injured. Ning Fengji waved his hand, knowing his daughter could be a handful, but Ning Tian still needed to take responsibility. Understood, Father. Ning Tian responded respectfully and, with the remaining disciples, helped Chen Feng and Gu Luo up. Brother. Xiaolan rushed to Qiu's side. He sat cross-legged, 2 soul rings rising beneath him. Green light emanated from Xiaolan's hands as she pressed them against Qiu's back to heal him. The field expands. The blue-silver grass on the ground pulsed with life, emitting starlight that seeped into Qiu's body. Jian Douluo, who was closely watching Qiu, frowned. Is that a domain? Chen Xian's eyes widened as he looked at Qiu and Xiaolan in shock. Uncle Jian, are you sure? Ning Fengji was surprised. How could someone so young possess a domain, something only titled Douluos controlled? No doubt. Sword Douluo, owner of the 7-kill domain, knew that power well. Besides, that kid used what looked like a martial spirit avatar. They'd arrived as the Gale Demon Wolf King attacked, seeing Qiu's every move. Martial spirit avatar. Ning Rongrong's tear-stained eyelashes trembled as she gazed at Qiu, curious. Swordsman, is this the kid you mentioned? He's really something. Gu Rong stroked his chin, sensing a familiar power within Qiu. He's more than something. He's a straight-up monster. Ning Fengji smiled wryly, realizing he'd underestimated them. Both were incredible. One could use a spirit avatar as a great soul master, and the other had a domain. Father, thanks to Qiu, you might not have seen me or fourth brother again. Ning Rongrong tugged on Ning Fengji's sleeve, recounting the dangers they faced. Huh? Ning Fengji exclaimed, surprised. What is it, Dad? Has that little girl grown a lot lately? He noticed Xiaolan's changed appearance. Seems like it. She was smaller before, Ning Rongrong said, rubbing her eyes and studying her closely. Meanwhile, Ning Tian and others had placed Chen Feng and Gu Luo on stretchers. Their ribs were broken and internal organs damaged, so it would take time to recover. Yi Qiu finished, opened his eyes, and saw Xiaolan's worried face. Ah! Brother, are you okay? She threw herself into his arms. Hee, nothing serious. He rubbed her hair, his condition improved with her help and Ning Fengji and the others approached. Brother Yi Qiu, we meet again, Ning Fengji said, his smile gentle as always. Sect Master Ning, seniors. Yi Qiu stood quickly and bowed. Xiaolan followed suit. Huh, she's still so cute. Ning Fengji said, and Ning Rongrong nodded, her hands itching to pinch her cheeks. Yi Qiu, thank you for saving my daughter. Why don't you both stay at the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School for a while to recover? That's right. We have tons of good food at home. Ning Rongrong added, her face a little dirty but her expression inviting, which made her look a bit comical. Ning Tian, behind them, felt neglected. Dad! You almost lost your son too. My son has no rights. Yi Qiu happily agreed. Sect Master Ning, you're too kind. I was planning to visit anyway, but we happened to run into you. Oh. What a coincidence. In that case, let's leave now. Seeing Yi Qiu nod, Ning Fengji signaled Douluo. Douluo nodded and pointed a finger, creating ripples in space that formed a dark portal. Yi Qiu compared it to his own divine power, noting Douluo's space abilities were limited and not used much in battle. He wondered why the soul skills in Douluo continent limited soul masters' martial spirit development. Brother, look. Xiaolan started to speak, but Yi Qiu stopped her with a glance. Douluo noticed. You're very observant. It seems my senses were right, your martial soul has a space attribute too. Oh. Ning Fengji and the others looked at Yi Qiu, surprised. Hee, just lucky. He scratched his head, embarrassed, and glared at Xiaolan. Oops, she said, sticking her tongue out. Uncle Bone, let's go. Okay. Ning Fengji, already planning to recruit Yi Qiu, looked at his younger sister staring at him, feeling intrigued. Everyone stepped into the black hole. The scenery shifted instantly, causing a moment of dizziness. Sunlight scattered around. Wow! Brother, this place is beautiful. Xiaolan jumped excitedly, taking in the sights. Of course. Little one, let me give you a hug. Ning Rongrong said, feeling better after having been comforted by several people. I don't want it. You're dirty and smelly. Xiaolan dodged her, pinching her nose in disgust and waving her hands. Hey! You're talking nonsense. Ning Rongrong sniffed herself, embarrassed, rolling on the ground. Her clothes were covered in human and wolf blood. Noticing Yi Qiu watching, she felt even more ashamed and chased after Xiaolan, angry. Hey, you! Stop right there. Watching Xiaolan play among the flowers, Yi Qiu smiled, taking in the sights. It was beautiful. Most of the buildings were towers. The tallest was shaped like the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile Tower. The overall tone was green, conveying the fusion of support-type soul masters and nature. It also incorporated hexagonal eaves from Chinese architecture, the spire reaching into the sky, symbolizing its unshakable status on the Douluo continent. Exotic flowers and plants surrounded the area, showing off the sect's wealth and history. Yi Qiu, I've had a place prepared for you. Go wash up, and I'll arrange a meal later. Thank you, Sect Master Ning. No problem. You saved Rongrong's life. After a few more words, Yi Qiu left with Xiaolan, whose face was red from Ning Rongrong pinching her. Chapter 69. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Qiu guided Xiaolan, following the waiter Ning Fengji had arranged. Bro, my face hurts. You deserved it. All that grumbling when you were hungry. Ignoring her complaints, Yi Qiu had seen perfectly well how Ning Rongrong had nabbed her. Once they reached their rooms, Yi Qiu told Xiaolan to play for a bit while he freshened up. When he came out, Xiaolan was already in the courtyard garden, buzzing around with the bees and butterflies, playing with the flowers, and generally having a blast. Right on time for dinner, someone came to show them the way. The hall was decked out, all gold and jade, with glass covering the walls and ceiling, making it almost blinding. In the center was a huge table overflowing with food, drinks, juices, seafood, roasts, poultry, you name it, they had it, and it wasn't just a bunch of different stuff, it was the same ingredients cooked every which way. Yi Qiu looked at the long table and almost choked. This was ridiculous. Over 100 dishes? Even if he had arms like an ape, he couldn't try it all. Wow! So much yummy stuff. Xiaolan's eyes went wide. She slipped her hand from Yi Qiu's and bolted for the table. See? I asked my dad to put on a real spread just for you. Ning Rongrong rushed over, grabbed Xiaolan's hand, and sat her down next to her, but kept glancing at Yi Qiu. Ning Fengji, Douluo, and Ning Tian were already seated. Yi Qiu sat next to Xiaolan, grabbing her hands before she could dive in. Ning Rongrong looked over at him with a hint of something in her eyes. Brother Yi Qiu, I can't thank you enough for saving my life. Ning Tian stood and bowed. Yi Qiu waved his hands. No need for that. You've thanked me 100 times already. Ning Rongrong was more reserved. After some pampering, she really was beautiful, with long brown hair, a flowing green dress, and an air of graceful nobility. She started to bow towards Yi Qiu, but he stopped her. Miss Ning, you really don't have to. Huh, Yi Qiu, don't be uncomfortable. Thanks are in order. I'll have Gu Luo and Chen Feng come over personally once they're recovered from their injuries. No need, Sect Master Ning. This feast is more than enough. Yi Qiu demurred. This big show of gratitude made him uneasy. Bro, can you let go of Xiaolan's hand? When can we start eating? Listening to all the polite conversation, Xiaolan, face to face with so much delicious food, was at the end of her rope. Ning Rongrong covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. Ha! The little one can't wait any longer. Let's dig in. Ning Fengji laughed, clapping his hands twice. Bang, bang. Several maids stepped behind them, setting out the tableware. As soon as he released Xiaolan's hands, she was off. She was now really hungry. She didn't even bother with silverware, just stuffing her face. Yi Qiu sighed, letting her go, and chatted with Ning Fengji while he ate. Yi Qiu didn't see any of Ning Fengji's other children. They were probably out managing the family businesses. The guy had a ton of stuff to oversee. Hey, try this. And this. And this. Ning Rongrong kept loading up Xiaolan's plate. The maids replaced her plates with refills. Xiaolan just kept shoving food in, cheeks puffed out, a little annoyed. You, go away. Swallowing what she had, she pouted. You're the little one. You were crying before. What are you talking about? Ning Rongrong blushed, gritting her teeth. She shot a dirty look at the maids. They all lowered their heads, pretending they hadn't heard a thing. They couldn't handle the little witch's antics. That's what you get for talking smack. Annoyed, Ning Rongrong snatched away all the food in front of Xiaolan. Ah! That's mine. Xiaolan wants to eat. Not anymore. Ah, Sister Rongrong, sister, you're the prettiest. Smooch star. In the end, after planting a face full of oil on Ning Rongrong's cheek, she was back in business. Yi Qiu covered his face, embarrassed for Xiaolan. Ning Fengji and the others watched the two kids play with amusement. Yi Qiu, are you really only level 23? Douluo asked, intrigued. My spirit power is indeed only at the Great Soul Master level. Yi Qiu replied honestly. With your talent, shouldn't you be a great soul master at this age? Douluo tugged at his few strands of hair. Someone who could use a spirit avatar at this level must be a top-tier prodigy, Yi Qiu started to explain, but Xiaolan cut him off. My brother is only a little over 10 years old. Hiccup. Speechless, he glared at the oil-smeared Xiaolan. What? You're the same age as Rongrong. Ning Fengji and the others stared at him. You don't look it. Well, I developed a little faster, Yi Qiu mumbled, scratching his head, forced to go with that explanation. Picking up a pastry, he smiled and stuffed it into Xiaolan's mouth. Ning Fengji thought about Xiaolan, she seemed to be growing faster than average as well. He understood clearly that Yi Qiu didn't want to say more. I see. Everyone had secrets, and he wasn't going to pry, so he dropped the subject. Although his desire to get Yi Qiu on their side had only grown stronger, Ning Rongrong was also taken aback. This guy is actually my age. Across from Xiaolan, she stared at his profile, lost in thought for a moment. Why are you always looking at my brother? Xiaolan's voice got everyone's attention. Yi Qiu turned, looking right at Ning Rongrong, meeting those deep blue eyes. Ning Rongrong looked away, feeling the eyes around her, and quickly lowered her head. What are you talking about? Glaring at Xiaolan, she took a sip of the red wine, and the color seemed to creep into her face. Yi Qiu looked at them strangely. What's that? Xiaolan wants to drink it too. She reached for the drink in Ning Rongrong's hand. Ah. Bro, she just ruined the whole thing. Kids can't drink that. Yi Qiu frowned, handing the cup back to Ning Rongrong. Okay, covering her head, her eyes darted to the things in Ning Rongrong's hands. Sect Master Ning, I have a question. Time flew. After dinner, Ning Rongrong wanted to hang out with Xiaolan, but Ning Fengji stopped her. Ning Rongrong looked disappointed. Ning Tian looked just as bummed. Yi Qiu figured they probably had to go console the families of the disciples who died. After all, they will take over the sect in the future. Chapter 70. Do you hate me? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ning Fengji readily agreed to Yi Qiu's request for help, promising to arrange his enrollment soon. Back at the small courtyard, Yi Qiu scooped Xiaolan up in a princess carry. Her legs were shot, and carrying her on his back would press uncomfortably on her stomach. Next time you eat so much, you're on your own. The words were barely out of his mouth when a surge of soul power shot through him, instantly boosting him to level 24. His scolding expression froze. Brother? What were you saying? Xiaolan asked, a playful, triumphant look on her face. Huh? Heh. You can eat more next time. Yi Qiu stammered, his face burning. After tasting the benefits, he suddenly regretted his outburst. No, Xiaolan feels awful. Ugh. She rubbed her swollen belly and hiccuped, wrapping her arms around Yi Qiu's neck. She whispered in his ear, Xiaolan's the same level as you now. You better step it up, or I'll be stuck to you all the time. Got it. Being lectured by his sister felt a little weird. Smooch. Her slightly greasy lips landed on Yi Qiu's cheek. Xiaolan giggled. That's for my brother. He. This is for real. Come on. He just stared at her, helpless. Later that evening, Ning Rongrong showed up with red, swollen eyes, like she'd been crying. Miss Ning, are you alright? Are you here to see Xiaolan? Yi Qiu's voice, which she hadn't noticed before, now grated on her nerves. Thinking of all the nasty things people had said, she felt a wave of sadness. Do you hate me too? Huh? Yi Qiu was confused by the question, but he knew what to do. Of course not. You're lying. Ning Rongrong grabbed his collar, glared up at him. If you don't hate me, why did you ignore me before? And you always call me Miss Ning, Miss Ning. Well. Yi Qiu rubbed his nose, embarrassed to be called out. So, do you also think I'm just a troublemaker, that I'm spoiled, rude, thoughtless, and mean? That besides being Miss Ning, I'm useless. She rattled off the accusations in one breath. The more she talked, the more she cried, and Qiu wondered what she'd been through while trying to make amends. Answer me. Wah. She tugged at his clothes, her fists pounding his chest like raindrops. Looking at Ning Rongrong, who was clearly losing it, Qiu's head started to spin. Lady. How am I supposed to answer that? He stopped her mini-assault, his eyes flashing with 3 jade beads, and hypnotized her. Brother, why are you being so noisy? Xiaolan stumbled out, rubbing her sleepy eyes, and looked around, bewildered. Huh? Sister Rongrong, what's wrong? Qiu couldn't help but shoot her a sideways glance. One meal together, and they're already sisters. It's nothing, just sleep it off. Qiu picked up Ning Rongrong and took her inside. In the distance, 2 figures stood on a spire. Fengji, are you sure about this? Uncle Jian, think of it as a lesson for her. Her temper really needs fixing. As for those relatives of the disciples, I'll take care of it. What are you going to do about Qiu? Let him do something special. A genius like that deserves our attention, especially since those 2 siblings are monsters. Ning Fengji chuckled, buy one, get one free. Definitely not a bad deal. By the way, when Qiu asked for my help, I was thinking of introducing him to Qinghe. Young people probably have more in common. What about Rongrong? Jian Douluo wasn't great at this kind of thing. He was more concerned about his little princess, and he wasn't blind to her crush on Qiu. Rongrong? Let nature run its course. My little princess from the 7 treasure glazed tiles sect isn't going to have trouble finding a husband. Even as he said it, Ning Fengji secretly shook his head. If she doesn't fix that temper, it might not be so easy. After leaving Ning Rongrong in Xiaolan's care, Qiu sat cross-legged on the bed, meditating. He didn't even know when she woke up or when she left the courtyard. He didn't know how Xiaolan comforted her, only that her eye circles were slightly red and swollen when she left, but she no longer seemed so sad. Her steps had a bit of bounce to them. Outside, the moonlight streamed down, adding a touch of softness to the flower garden in the small courtyard. Xiaolan stood by the window, quietly watching Qiu, relieved to see that he was still deep in meditation. Then, glancing back several times, she tiptoed to the gate of the courtyard and peeked out, cautiously, spotting something. Her eyes lit up, and she waved, trying to keep her voice down, afraid of disturbing anyone. Sister Rongrong. Over here. Little Blue. Shoot! Ning Rongrong started to speak, but she was cut off by Xiaolan's raised finger. Sister Rongrong, did you bring the stuff? Looking at her strangely, Ning Rongrong had no choice but to copy her and leaned in to whisper in her ear. Yeah, but what are you doing? Brother won't let me drink. We gotta be sneaky, don't let him find out. I don't want him to be mad. Xiaolan tiptoed, bringing Ning Rongrong into her room. Little Blue, one more time. Sister Rongrong, bottoms up. The sound of clinking glasses came from inside. A while later, a shout from Ning Rongrong and the sound of breaking porcelain echoed from Xiaolan's room. Ah! Xiaolan! Put it down. Crash. Xiaolan, let me go. Ah! Qiu, sitting cross-legged on his bed, twitched his ears, as if hearing someone calling for help. He got up and tracked down the sound. Brother. Xiao Lan. Let me go. I'm not Qiu. Ah! Standing outside the door, Qiu listened to the voices inside, his expression growing weirder. Click, star. Opening the door, Qiu frowned at the strong smell of alcohol. 2 wine glasses sat on the table, surrounded by broken shards of a wine bottle on the floor. Qiu's eyebrows furrowed, and a few dark lines appeared on his forehead. On the bed, Xiaolan's face was flushed, her fair skin red, her hair a mess, her eyes half closed, and she was clearly out of it. She had Ning Rongrong pinned beneath her, wrapped around her like an octopus, and was nibbling on her. Why Qiu? Get her off me. Ah Xiaolan. Stop grabbing me. My clothes. Ning Rongrong had teeth marks on her face, and her clothes were disheveled. Yi Qiu strode forward, his face grim, pinched the back of Xiaolan's neck, and yanked her up.